Well, we're 6 weeks into the college football season, and I'm sure a lot of people would say, well, that's halfway through the season, right? Basically, yeah, we're halfway through the season now, and this is when things start to get a lot more interesting. A lot more, I guess you could say, projective, if you will. As I just adjust the camera here for a second. But yeah, a lot more projective over time. And here's the thing. At 247sports.com, Brad Crawford, about, I'd say, 6 hours ago or so, didn't waste any time or 7 hours ago, didn't waste any time in projecting, the landscape of the bowl season, like who he feels is going to end up where based on what's happening right now. Now, for those of you that don't know why people like to project, as early as this, it's basically because of the fact that this is just their way of saying if the season ended now, that this is the most likely scenario from a bowl perspective, that we would see come out of, the season right now. So with that said, here is what he's looking at as his updated bowl projections. Oh yeah, this is what he calls the updated bowl projections for every game moving into week 6. So 5 weeks in, but this is what he's projecting as they move into the 6th week of the season, which means we'll be halfway through, and this will be around the time that official rankings, not just what we see now and everything, but rankings for the college football playoffs and all that come into play, if you know what I mean. But anyway, this is what they're looking at as the updated bowl projections for every game moving into this upcoming 6th week. And now, like I said, these are projections, based on if the season was to end now. But this is what he's projecting. For the Cure Bowl, his projected matchup as of right now is Middle Tennessee and Ball State. That's his projection right now. Middle Tennessee, Ball State for the Cure Bowl. For the Hawaii Bowl, he's projecting UTSA, Texas San Antonio, and San Jose State. For the Bahamas Bowl, he's projecting UTEP and Kent State. For the Fenway Bowl, he's projecting Miami and SMU. For the New Mexico Bowl, he's projecting Air Force and North Texas. And again, remember, these things could change. These could change over the next several weeks, over this next month, and going into next month. These things can and probably will change. Now, for the Las Vegas Bowl, as of right now, he's projecting UCLA and Mississippi State. For the Armed Forces Bowl, he's projecting Kansas State and BYU. For the Los Angeles Bowl, he's projecting Fresno State and Washington State, which I think regional-wise for Fresno State would be a good choice for the LA Bowl, basically. For the Lending Tree Bowl, he's going with Ohio and Georgia Southern. For the Frisco Bowl, he's going Nevada, Tulsa. For the Myrtle Beach Bowl, he's going Coastal Carolina, Western Kentucky. For the Boca Raton Bowl, he's going with Arkansas State, Miami of Ohio. For the Idaho Potato Bowl, Eastern Michigan, Wyoming. New Orleans Bowl, UAB, Louisiana. Independence Bowl, Army, UCF. Liberty Bowl, LSU, Texas Tech. Military Bowl, North Carolina, ECU. Guaranteed Rate Bowl, Michigan State, Texas. The Gas Parlay Bowl, Houston, Appalachian State. Quick Lane Bowl, Purdue, Toledo. Texas Bowl, Texas A&M and Kansas. Holiday Bowl, Syracuse, Washington. Pinstripe Bowl, Duke, Iowa. First Responder Bowl, Memphis, Oklahoma. Camellia Bowl, Carmela Bowl, Liberty, Tulane. Alamo Bowl, Oregon, Baylor. Cheez-It Bowl, Wake Forest, TCU. Arizona Bowl, Boise State, Western Michigan. Birmingham Bowl, UNLV, South Alabama. Sun Bowl, Oregon State, Florida State. Music City Bowl, Wisconsin, Florida. Mayo Bowl, Pittsburgh, Maryland. Rela Quest Bowl, Illinois, Kentucky. Which I guess is the Rela Quest Bowl, I guess is now the former Tampa Bowl, or what was it? The Outback Bowl. So the Wheelcrest Bowl, Illinois, Kentucky. Citrus Bowl, Minnesota, Ole Miss. Gator Bowl, Notre Dame, Arkansas. Cotton Bowl, Utah, Cincinnati. Orange Bowl, NC State, Penn State. Sugar Bowl, Tennessee, Oklahoma State. Rose Bowl, Michigan, USC. Renewal of a traditional old school Rose Bowl game. And here's what gets interesting. The CFB playoff semifinals. Basically the college football playoff semifinals. Fiesta Bowl. He has Ohio State, Georgia. And in the other semifinal, which is the Peach Bowl, Alabama, Clemson. And then for the national championship, Ohio State, Alabama. And that's basically his projections based on what's happened over the past several weeks and going into this next week. Now remember, these are just projections. These are based on if the season was to end now, where they see a lot of these schools going from a bowl perspective. Now, could some of these bowl games come out and be true, or turn out to be true, I should say? Absolutely. Kansas right now is on an unbeaten streak, but not to jinx it, we know nothing lasts forever, and they're eventually going to run into a buzzsaw or a very tough road or at home test that's going to basically say, yeah, Cinderella shoes have been shattered. But I'm not saying that's entirely true. There is a guarantee, no doubt, that they will make a bowl game this year. Right now they're 5-0, the first in the Big 12. There is no doubt they'll make a bowl game. The question is, can they hold on long enough to try to get to a top tier bowl and not be saddled at what this guy is projecting, that being the Texas Bowl? We shall see. As far as the rankings go, basically right now, you have Alabama at number 1, Georgia at 2, Ohio State at 3, Michigan at 4, Clemson at 5, if this thing will even move. You have USC at 6. You have, who's at 7 here? You have Oklahoma State at 7. You have Tennessee at 8. Ole Miss at 9. Penn State at 10. Utah at 11. Oregon at 12. Kentucky at 13. NC State at 14. Wake Forest at 15. BYU at 16. TCU at 17. UCLA at 18. Kansas at 19. Yes, Kansas is at 19 now, but that could increase or decrease. We'll have to see. Kansas State is at 20. So the top 25 consists of 2 Kansas teams back to back. Washington's at 21, Syracuse 22, Mississippi State 23, 24 Cincinnati, 25 is LSU. Now, you're probably wondering why some of these teams are, with the record that they have, but not ranked higher. Well, basically the situation is it's all based on reputation. You see, Kansas has not had the best reputation in football. So even if they're undefeated, their reputation does not help them in any shape, form, or fashion. I mean, the schedule is a very tough one in the weeks to come. As a matter of fact, I'll look that up right now. Let me see what the schedule is right now. Here's what's going to get interesting as the weeks go on. They got a ranked game that's going to have college game day on their campus. They're going to have they're facing TCU. Very tough opponent. But then the following week, here's where things get interesting. They're going up against unranked, that's right, unranked Oklahoma. That's right, in Norman. And let's put it this way. If Kansas stays unbeaten after Saturday, but Oklahoma does not, and they're in their hometown, Oklahoma is going to look at Kansas as saying, sorry guys, we respect the fact that you are on the revival. We respect the fact that you have basically gotten back to prominence. But right now you're our sacrificial lamb. And that's how they're going to look at it, unfortunately. Then Kansas has got to go to Baylor. Then they got Oklahoma State at home. They go to Texas Tech. Then they got Texas at home. Then they got to go to Manhattan and face the Kansas State Wildcats to end the season. And here's what's interesting, though. Here's what's interesting. They beat Iowa State by 3. Barely. TCU is one they can beat. There's no doubt. Oklahoma. Here's where it's going to get tricky. Here's where it gets tricky, okay? So I see them probably winning 2 more games. That being possibly TCU and maybe Baylor or Texas Tech. One of those two. Baylor or Texas Tech, I could see them winning along with TCU. And if not TCU, I can see Baylor and Texas Tech being winnable. Thus, they'll get into a bowl game. Which is why I think this Brad Crawford is saying, hey, this is where I think they're going to be at the end of the year in the bowl games. Because he could see it's not going to be easy for the rest of the year. Now, if they go into Norman, whether they win, tie or not against TCU, they go into that. If they go into Norman on the 15th and win, even by barely, it's going to be like, holy crap, what's going on here? And a lot of people are looking at the fact that right now, believe it or not, there's a good chance. There's a good chance, although it's too early, a good chance that Kansas State and Kansas could meet for the Big 12 championship. So that November 26th matchup may not be the only matchup they have. Think about that. Think about that. But anyway, it is too soon to even think about exactly where they're going to be heading, bowl-wise right now. But the reason I think, again, this guy's projecting the Texas Bowl is because of what the rest of the schedule looks like. Now, I'm not saying none of those are winnable. But again, you got to realize where they're heading. They're heading, who they're facing and who they're heading into. They got TCU at home. The crowd will be behind them. That might be winnable. No doubt. But then they got to go to Norman, Oklahoma, and then they got to go to Waco, Texas. Those two are going to be hard to win. Not saying they aren't winnable, but they will be hard to win. And then they got Oklahoma State at home. Then they got to go to Texas Tech. Then they got Texas at home, and then they got to go to Manhattan. So they got a tough schedule ahead of them. Not saying none of this is not winnable, especially under what they've been doing lately. But I am saying this right now. I'm projecting a 7-5, if not an 8-4 record. That's what I'm looking at. They got winnable games, but it's up to them to make sure each and every one of these games are won, or else what Brad Crawford is basically saying could be true will be true. So we'll see what happens. But right now, getting back on topic. A lot of the games, the bowl games, are just projections. Remember, we just finished the 5th week, so the only question now is, how do our teams that we get behind, like Cal, Stanford, Duke, Kansas, Alabama, Arkansas, Clemson, Baylor, you name it, Kansas State, you name it, Notre Dame, how do they get to where we want them to get to in the next several weeks, in the next month or so? How do they get there? That's the question we have to wonder about, and hopefully, we'll get, more of a straight answer as the weeks and months go on. But we'll see. Again, guys, these are just projections. These are just projections of where, people think certain teams will head if the season was to end now. But let me know what your thoughts are. Comment below, live chat during the premiere, like the video, super chat, super stickers are open during the live chat, super thanks afterwards. Check me out at BW Rose's Discussions, all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. Also check me out at Venmo at Brian-Warmer-2, Cash App at BW Roses 98. At my Teespring store for merchandise you can't get anywhere else. As well, at patreon.com/BW Roses, the $1, $3 tier. And until next time, guys, let me know what your thoughts are down below and in the live chat. Where do you see a lot of this, unraveling? Do you think some of this will come true? Let me know down below, and I'll talk to y'all later.